Hey everybody, welcome to this week's Mid-City Sermon Cast. We're continuing our exploration of Romans 12 and the values that make for a Jesus-shaped life. And today we're going to talk about hope that holds on. So let's dive in. So today we're continuing this exploration of Romans 12, and really it's what I see as Paul's description of Jesus's better way of being in the world. And so far we've talked about faith and love, and we've talked about empathy, peace, and humility. And today we're going to wrap up this conversation by talking about hope, a hope that holds on, or as Paul puts it here in Romans 12, rejoice in hope, be patient in affliction, and persevere in prayer. So let's face it, sometimes life can get us down. Maybe it's the stress of work or school. Maybe it's health problems or money worries. Maybe it's other people. Y'all ever have any problems with other people? And then there's the pain of the world around us. Just when you turn on the news or just pay attention to what's going on, there's war and there's poverty, there's violence, there's injustice. And it is easy to start to feel a little hopeless. You ever feel that way? So one of the things we need to know is that our spiritual ancestors experienced many of the same struggles and feelings about life that we do. They, of course, had all the ordinary problems of life. And I really want you just to think about it for a minute. I think sometimes we think people 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago were really different from us, but they weren't. I'm sure they had fights with their spouses. I'm sure they worried about how they were going to get food on the table and pay the bills, so to speak. And so they had those kinds of problems. But when we read from our spiritual ancestors, particularly in the Hebrew scriptures, they also faced a litany of hardships as a people. One of the most important stories in the whole of the Old Testament is the Exodus, which starts with the Israelites being enslaved, right? They're enslaved by the Egyptians. In time, we see that even when they settle into the promised land and things are going well, that a civil war basically emerges. Eventually, they're exiled by the Babylonians. And when we get to the New Testament, the Romans are ruling them with an iron fist. And here's to me one of the cool things about the Bible. They aren't shy about expressing their feelings about all of this. So in Psalm 13, 1 and 2, the psalmist says this, "How long, O Lord? How long will you forget me forever? How long will you hide your face from me? How long must I bear pain in my soul and have sorrow in my heart all day long? How long shall my enemy be exalted over me?" And this is one of the things I love about the Bible. It is honest about the pains and the struggles of life. It doesn't sugarcoat life. It doesn't paper over human pain. It gives voice to the struggles and the feelings that we feel. But another cool thing is it doesn't leave us there. So I don't know about you, but in the face of my own trials and pain, there is one thing that I have come to realize, and I talk to my kids about this all the time. I probably annoy them with it, that we have a choice to make. We have a choice. I can choose to be bitter and angry and negative. I can choose to give up hope. Or I can choose to kind of lift my heart and lift my mind and point them in a better way. So years ago, I came across an idea that just really fascinated me, and it really helped me to shift my thinking about something important. And the idea is known as the 11th commandment, and it's written by a Jewish philosopher by Emil Fackenheimer. He came up with this idea, and I want to share it with you because, like I said, it really has helped me, and maybe it'll be one of those things that can be helpful to you too. So here's the 11th commandment. So real quick, by the way, so there's like 10 commandments, right? Then there's the normal 10. Well, Fackenheim adds an 11th one, and the commandment is this: Thou shalt not grant Hitler a posthumous victory. And here's what he means. So nothing defines the Jewish people more deeply than their relationship and their belief in God. I mean, that's what makes the Jewish people Jewish, this special covenant relationship that they have with God. Well, after the Holocaust, some Jewish people really began to question the existence of God. I mean, if God could allow such a thing, is there really a God? And listen, it's a completely understandable thought, right? But Fackenheim reasoned this. He said, to stop believing in God because of something as terrible as the Holocaust is basically to let Hitler win. And let me see if I can unpack that a little bit. So again, what is it that makes the Jewish people Jewish? This covenant relationship and this faith that they have in God. What was Hitler trying to do? One of the things he was trying to do was to destroy the Jewish people. So if the Jewish people stop believing in God because of Hitler, who wins? Hitler wins, right? And Fackenheim basically says we can't let that happen. And so because of Hitler, he says the Jewish people must believe in God. And I just want to say, I've encountered a lot of modern Christians nowadays who look around the world and they see all the terrible things happening. They see Christians behaving badly sometimes, and they say, I can't believe in God anymore, and I can't believe in Jesus anymore. And one of the questions I think we really need to stop and ask is, okay, so if we stop believing in God and we stop believing in Jesus because of these bad things, what are we allowing to win? And I would suggest to you we're allowing the bad things and the Christians who get it wrong to win, right? Now look, when I first heard this idea, it really helped me to reframe some major thinking about God. For a long time, one of the biggest obstacles to my faith in God was human suffering. It was the fact that I looked around the world and I saw genocides and slavery and poverty and war. And if there is a God, why does God allow these things? Now, I'm not saying that Fackenheim gives us an answer to that question, but Fackenheim did help me to kind of set a direction as it relates to that question. So what Fackenheim revealed to me is that if I give up on the idea of God, if I give up on the idea of ultimate good and ultimate beauty and ultimate truth and ultimate justice, if I give up on that because of the bad things going on around me, I have allowed those bad things, I have allowed that darkness, I have allowed that evil to win, right? And I got to just say, my personality won't allow that. And so because there is suffering and because there are these dark places in the world, I must choose. I kind of defiantly choose to believe in God. I choose to believe in ultimate good. So does it make sense? Think about it a little bit. So to look beyond the darkness of the present moment and to lift our eyes to the eternal light, I think is one of the most profound and courageous moves of the human spirit. And I'll go as far as to say that I think it's an expression of God's image within us. It's somehow something divine inside of us that kind of like rises up in the face of struggle and pain and darkness. It's also a really important step in refusing to allow evil to win, just to kind of make that decision. And by the way, the opposite is true as well. To say there is no ultimate, eternal good is to allow evil to win, to make evil what is ultimate and eternal. And again, I just invite you to kind of think about that, chew on that for a minute. So back to our spiritual ancestors. They knew suffering and they knew despair, but they chose to believe in a good and a loving God. They chose to believe that one day the promises God had planted in their hearts, things like peace and prosperity and love and mercy, that those things would one day become a reality. And just listen to some of the things that the Hebrew Scriptures tell us. Isaiah promises a light shining in the darkness. Jeremiah dreams of laughter breaking through tears. Ezekiel envisions dry bones rising to life. Habakkuk praises God even when life is barren. Hosea speaks of God's love that will not let us go. Micah imagines swords beaten into plowshares. The psalmist assures us that while weeping may last for the night, it is joy that comes in the morning. And you just see this throughout the scriptures. In the face of darkness and pain and suffering, they chose hope and they chose faith. And this hope-filled vision is not a cop-out. It's also not pie in the sky thinking. I think a lot of times people think, oh, this is just this Pollyanna thinking. Here's the way I've come to see it. I've come to see it as brave. What's more courageous, to cave into the darkness and kind of, I always think about like just getting in my bed and pulling the blankets over my head, or to get up and to stand up for what's good and what's right? Which one's braver? It's also a stubborn kind of determination that I personally like. I do not want to be the kind of person who allows despair and evil and darkness to have the last word. Do you want to be that kind of person? So it's a little bit of kind of like standing up against some of that stuff. I also think it's faith. I want you to think about something. What happens if we can't see beyond the present darkness to something better? What happens to me as an individual? What happens to us as humanity if we can't see beyond our present struggles to something better? I also think it's hope, but it's not the soft kind of hope that some people imagine. There's a meme that was floating around for a while that kind of helped me understand that hope is kind of something tough, right? And it says this: people speak of hope as if it's this delicate, ephemeral thing made of whispers and spider webs, but it's not. Hope has dirt on her face, blood on her knuckles, the grit of cobblestones in her hair, and she just spat out a tooth as she rises for another go. That's this kind of, rugged hope. I also think this is the kind of hope that we see embodied in the life and teachings of Jesus. So I don't know how much you've read the Jesus story or how much you pay attention to it, but it's not a really pretty story. Jesus faces evil. He faces suffering. He even faces death. But he does so with an unshakable belief in the goodness of God. Every time that Jesus spoke of his coming crucifixion, and he did speak of it, he would always add, but on the third day I will rise again. So you get the image? Jesus looked at that darkness. He looked at suffering. He looked at death right in the face. And he said, but you don't get the last word. I will live again. And one of the reasons the idea of resurrection or Jesus's resurrection is important is this. Sometimes things don't work out in this life the way we want them to. It's just a reality of this world and this time. Sometimes things do not work out in this life the way we want them to. And so our hope, I really want you to hear me say this, our hope has to be big enough, and it has to be bold enough, and it has to be courageous enough that it looks even beyond this life, to life after this life. That's the faith of the Bible. That's the faith of Jesus. And if you follow the rest of Jesus' story, Jesus' faith is proven right. On the third day, he is raised from the dead. And the promise for us as Christians is that even death does not have the last word. So one question that people might ask, and it's a legitimate one, is, okay, Brady, you're promising all this, all these good things are going to come. The prophets picture all these good things coming. Jesus says that good is going to win and that life is going to win. Where is it, and why wait? And that's a big conversation. But Paul gives us kind of an image that I think can be helpful. He compares the waiting to a woman in childbirth. The agony is real, the waiting is long, but what's coming is life and more life. And this is also the image that Jesus gives us, a woman in childbirth. He also compares it to a seed in the ground, yeast hidden in dough. It's invisible at first. We may not see it, but it's growing, it's rising, and it's coming. And again, if you think about that, that also gives us hope, right? So how do we hold on while we're waiting? Our text today gives us kind of three little instructions. Paul says, rejoice in hope, be patient in affliction, and persevere in prayer. So hope, praise, not expecting God to fix every circumstance, but staying rooted in God's loving presence. Hope is patient. It keeps going when life is hard. I often say to people when I'm sort of counseling or talking to them in a difficult situation that sometimes we just have to do what I call the Dory philosophy. I don't know how many Finding Nemo fans there are, but so Dory is the little blue fish who says, just keep swimming, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. And there are some times where we just have to be patient and we just have to put one foot in front of another. And the final thing is hope rejoices. It really does kind of lift our hearts, not because everything is fixed, but because we have faith in God and God is faithful. And because even in hard times, we know that, we know the rest of the story, but we know the good thing that's coming. And so we return to where we started. Life can be hard, and the pull of despair can be real. It really can be. Maybe for you, it's the shadow of cancer. Maybe it's the grief of losing someone you love. Maybe it's the weight of depression, the fear of losing your job. Maybe it's looking wide-eyed at the brokenness of the world around us. Whatever it is, I just would remind you that we have a choice. We can choose the path of despair and bitterness, or we can choose the way of Jesus, the way of faith, of hope, and love. And I would just encourage you to follow Jesus in that faith, follow Jesus in hope. And know this, every time you do, every time you choose hope, you really are choosing Jesus's way, and you're giving the world a glimpse of Jesus's way. And our world really needs it. Catch you next time, everyone.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the Mid-City Church Sermoncast. If you'd like to find a home sheet, a resource that accompanies the sermoncast that has more questions to explore, the scriptures we use today, and more information, you can visit our website, midcity.church/sermoncast. If you'd like to support Mid-City Church by giving, please text the word GIVE to 225-307-0662. Thank you for your generosity, and we look forward to seeing you next week.